as far as like, I mean, okay, so let's go back a little bit because I want to get to know you a little bit, and I want the audience to know you. So tell us a little bit about who you are, and where were you born? What did your parents do when you were young? What kind of kid were you? Give me a little thoughts on your story.
Well, I've been a performer all of my life. Like that, just the first thing that you need to know about Tyler is that I have been a performer since I was born. I got my first opportunity to be on stage at 6 years old, as I think you had mentioned in the opening. Um, and honestly, I grew up in a single parent household. My father passed away when I was 6. It's one of the reasons why I ended up on stage. And my mom was incredibly supportive. And there wasn't a thing that me or my sister didn't want to get into that she didn't find a way to make happen. And that was an incredibly freeing thing. I grew up in a small town, so the nice thing is we had it was a great close knit community, rural Alberta. I'm from Canada, and a farming community, real and a real sense of community too. Like I still talk to the people that I went to elementary school with, and I don't live in the town anymore, but my mom still lives in the house that I grew up in. Like that is a generational house. And my mom actually took over the house from her grandparents. So like it is the house that I grew up in has been in our family now 4 generations. And so, I mean, it was just familial. So for me, I was encouraged and supported to be on stage. Eventually ended up, in my teens going to Fine Arts High School. I went in my late teens. I then got into film and television, and it's just been a great ride. I was blessed to have started my career early enough that I was able to retire at 20 years old, or at 25, 20-year career, 25 years old. I was able to retire from film and television and go and get an engineering discipline from school.
And so, what was it like fighting Freddy Krueger?
I actually didn't have to fight the man, but I got to morph into Freddy Krueger. The greatest experience of being on Freddy versus Jason, by the way, was actually getting to meet Robert Englund, who is like one of the most incredible human beings I've ever met on the planet. And I've met Dame Helen Mirren. I've worked with Helen Mirren and William H. Macy. I jammed in a trailer with Bill while he was learning to play guitar. So like I've had some pretty cool experiences while being on set, but hands down, getting to meet Robert Englund, getting to see him get into makeup and become Freddy Krueger was, I mean, a combination of fanboy geekdom, part professional pride and accomplishment, part just really, really cool. Like, and then for me to get to, I didn't actually become him. It's movie magic, trickery, fakery, but to be able to on celluloid go from me to Freddy is just so cool. I watch that show probably once a year just to fast forward to the Crystal Lake scene so that I can see it.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And so you're a singer too, right? I mean, you did the musical Ragtime. So
I am able to carry a tune effectively. I know some incredible vocalists. I've worked with some of the greats in the industry. And Ragtime was an absolute blast for me to work in. I have a comfortable vocal range in which I am able to perform. I know real singers, and I am not one of them. But to an untrained ear, yes, I can carry a tune effectively.
Well, that's great. That's great. And so growing up, what was it like? I mean, because obviously, you did all kinds of things, I would imagine, as a child and as a child actor and singer and doing all these things. Like, was it difficult as a child? I mean, was it hard work? Was it frustrating? Was there a lot of rejection? Tell me about what it's like to be a child performer.
It's actually really easy because you don't understand the business. especially when you start at 6 years old. 6 years old, you just show up and you get to see other kids and hang out in a casting room, and you get to play. Like, it's play. It's just fun. And there's no concept of rejection because you show up and you get to do the scene. And then sometimes you get to do the scene again and again and again in front of people. Like, there is no, you didn't get the role, or at least for me, I was, again, really blessed. My mom wasn't a stage mom. My mom was a working professional. Like, she worked at an accounting firm 18 hours a day, 6 days a week for 10 months of the year, and then the other 2 months she worked 12-hour days, 5 days a week. She was at an accounting firm. They don't have, no one who's in accounting ever has any time off. I don't know why anybody would get into the profession personally. But so she was busy doing her thing. So, like, my aunt or my uncle would shuttle me up for auditions. And that was always fun too, because at the time, like, it was a real distance to go from my hometown into Calgary to do these auditions. And so I'd get to, go see my grandparents or sleep overnight or see my uncle or, just do fun. It was just fun. Everything about it was fun. It didn't become not fun until it became a career after I graduated high school. That was one of the things that led me to retiring at 25. Is I distinctly remember the day that I didn't want to turn around to go to a callback. And I was like, oh, do I have to? And then when I realized that, because there's so many people in the world who want to be I was blessed. I was a working actor. I was somebody who was actually earning a living comfortably. And that was my only job. That was all I did. I was a performer. And there are people who starve themselves to death just for a chance to do what I was doing. And I was leading a comfortable life. I was leading a life that was so comfortable that it was able to pay for me to go back to school at 26. So, like, that was it. Yeah, it was an absolute joy when I was younger and easy to do.
So was your mom is she part of the reason? Because she was in accounting. Was she good with money? I mean, because obviously you hear all these stories about child actors and they're all broke, and so something about you and the way you did it, you gave yourself an opportunity to get freedom money wise, get freedom and choices and options at a very young age, versus so many other child actors. They struggle their whole life, and they continue to have to work because they didn't take care of themselves early on. So was it the residual income? Was it the passive? Like, what was it that created the freedom for you?
Yeah, no, I laugh when I get more specifically, my wife laughs when I still get my residual checks, because it always sounds cool, right? Residuals, you can make money that you didn't do any work for. And, I'm getting residual checks here 20-year work ago. And then they're not big. You got to understand that I'm a day player, right? Like, people don't know who Sean Tyler Foley or Tyler Foley is unless they IMDb me or run a Google search. Do you know what I mean? So I've made an incredible career out of playing student number one, frat boy number two, guy in hall. I am very, very rarely a named character. My most recent role that I did at the beginning of the summer, they specifically, the main actress, and she is like third build in a TV series that's been running for 15 years, wanted to call me a name in our little scene because she was firing me, and I had like one line that led up to it, and I promise you it will never make the final cut. She wanted to give me a name, and the directors and the producers came through and they're like, oh, you can't do that, because they have to pay you more when you're a name. So I've made a career out of being unnamed. Like, if I was on Star Trek, I'd be the red shirt dude who got shot really quick. So yeah, no, there weren't big residuals, but yes, having my mom have a strong financial foundation set me up for success. And it helped that I was in the arts too, because the banks don't like to give you credit when you are a self-employed actor. They look at that and they go, you will never have overdraft. You will never have a credit card. And I promise you, we will never give you a mortgage. And so really quickly, I had to adapt and understand, that renting isn't necessarily bad, because if my rent cost is less than my housing cost, and particularly if housing is remaining stable or dipping, which my heyday in acting was 2000 to 2004. Not a good time to be buying houses with 2008 around the corner. So renting was actually not that bad for me. And I couldn't get credit, so I couldn't spend on credit, so I couldn't get into debt. Which was like I didn't get into debt until I got married. And I didn't get married until I was in my 30s. So I was blessed to have my mom and her teachings and her understanding of money.
Thank you for watching our short clips on Alonzo Academy. If you'd like to watch the next short clip, click here. If you'd like to watch the entire podcast, click here.